Welcome back to another edition of Cover One, the Film Room. I'm your host, Erik Turner. And of course, we're doing these Film Room series. My co-host, my partner in crime, Mr. Nate Geary. What's going on, brother?
I think this is year 4, at least 4 or 5 that we've been doing these.
Yeah, I mean, we got shut down for a little bit.
Little bit.
Yeah, we're back at it.
A little bit. We're back at it, but it's been it's been a good, decent amount of time we've been doing these things. Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to it. Having the opportunity to do these things, really kind of take a peek under the hood. Unfortunately, it won't be with the film we want, but it's film nonetheless.
Hey, they shut us down last year, the NFL did, and, it's almost like they're trying to shut us down again. They're not giving us our addiction. They're not giving us our All-22 coaches film.
The Fiend we need our fix.
I know. I mean, it's Wednesday night, nearly 8 p.m., and it still hasn't come out yet, as far as I know. So we are going to be using broadcast footage, but, it's kind of a good thing because all summer we've studied Josh Allen, we've studied his mechanics, we've studied him prior 2 years. And, we did see a lot of change this offseason. It was the talk of the offseason, right? So broadcast footage is good footage to use for that. And it's also good footage to steal signals, to steal signs, to hear, some of the calls at the line. So for all you film nerds and all that out there right now, not having fans in the stands actually works out better for us because we can steal some signals and some signs and whatnot. But that is one thing I do like about the broadcast footage. But let's talk about week 1, Nate. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about Josh Allen and his output, his production versus the Jets.
Yeah, man, first and foremost, I think it's got to start and finish with the word and the phrase volume. To me, it spoke a lot about the confidence that Brian Daboll has in his young quarterback that they're going to drop back. I think ultimately ended up being in the 50s, right, Erik? That he ultimately had 50-something dropbacks. Obviously, attempts in the high 40s, 46 attempts on 53 dropbacks and 33 completions. I mean, those are big boy numbers. Those are numbers that we have not seen Josh Allen produce at any level as a passer. I mean, you go back to college, you go to Wyoming, you're not going to find this type of volume statistic of him as a passer. And I think, part of I don't know if this was like maybe immediately after the game or at some point during the actual game itself, you had kind of reached out to me and were basically like, Nate, what Josh Allen's doing is something that he was never actually supposed to do coming into the NFL, which is become a shotgun spread quarterback, volume passer who's throwing the ball 46 times a game. That was not the recipe to make Josh Allen successful, right? I mean, at least early on in his career, that's what most of us agreed that when he was drafted here, that wasn't going to be the type of offense we saw. And I think most of us were like, okay, well, let's figure out what that offense looks like. And I think from day one to last Sunday, we've seen a full evolution of himself as a passer, but his abilities and what types of scheme he's really able to win and succeed in. If you told me April 30th, 2017, or whenever he was drafted, that he was going to be a guy that won at the short and intermediate levels of the field by throwing the ball at a really accurate clip, I would have said, next, not happening. But not only, and what we're going to talk about today and what we're going to show you from some of the statistics coming up here, is not only did he have, I would say, success at the short and intermediate level, but I thought he thrived. I thought he dominated at each of those levels, making accurate passes to all of his receivers. 8 different targets, saw 2 or more targets in that game on Sunday. That to me means you're spreading the ball around, you're understanding what the defense is doing. They ran a ton of zone at you. So, he's not prioritizing one guy. This is an offense that has a lot of mouths to feed. And after 1 week, I think you feel really good that you're not going to have to worry about one guy getting the ball and one guy not, because I think there's enough ball to go around for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that, volume and, he won last week, and I don't know if he can stay that consistent. Obviously, over 70% completion percentage is absurd for him. And, he was 10th in adjusted completion percentage in an 81% range, as you saw a couple minutes ago on the screen. I love how you talk about where he's winning. I mean, he obviously won last year in that short to intermediate area. He struggled deep. And as you can see here, as of week 1, one thing that we had touched upon a few times over the last couple of years was throwing to his right. He has struggled in that department, especially short and to the right. So 0 to 9 yards, as Pro Football Focus shows here. And you saw last week, he was 6 for 6. And it's only 35 yards, but 1 touchdown. But when we get to a few of the plays that we're looking at tonight on film, you're going to see him make some throws to his right and all the way to his right, so outside the numbers. And you're going to see his mechanics and whether they're good or bad. You're going to see the placement of the ball. One play I sent you a few days after the game, well, you said, wow, that was clinical. That was clinic type, throw and catch from Elam to Diggs on the near sideline. So keeping an eye on those things that he has struggled with. Last year, one thing we're going to talk about tonight and show on film is play action. I mean, it was the number one narrative and theme for this game against the Jets. And there's a bunch of different theories on why they did that much and, why it was working. But it's something that we saw a lot of from under center in the prior couple years in the league for Josh Allen. And even in college, there wasn't much, play action passing from gun. There wasn't much play action passing from, pistol. And we saw all of that against the Jets last week, at one Bills drive. And so, there were a few narratives and a few different things that Brian Daboll pulled out. And let's talk about him real quick, because it almost looked like a totally different offense. Wouldn't you say, Nate?
Entirely different. I know last year at the beginning of the year, we were talking a lot about some of the spread concepts that they were bringing. Some of the K-gun, like some of these large spread passing schemes that, frankly, again, I just want to keep kind of pounding home the point that what Brian Daboll's been able to develop within the game of Josh Allen has been, to me, the most impressive part, because this is a player coming in that you didn't exactly know the tools in the tool shed. I think what we knew about Josh Allen is that the raw tools were there. He needed a coach to refine those tools and make them so that they were applicable on the field. And early on in his career, we saw some of the fruits of those tools, but we lost a little bit of that last year with some of the deep ball inaccuracy issues. But we did see growth in the intermediate area that we were talking about. Yes. The thing, though, about the offense and the scheme and how they're trying to beat teams, man, I think in years past, go back to last year, if the run game was stopped and really got pushed back early on in that game like it did, I don't see the Bills scoring 21 points in a game that they can't establish the run early in a football game. Like that, I don't think that's in their arsenal.
Or moving the ball that much and getting in the red zone. How many trips? Oh my goodness. Like, they were moving the ball at will pretty much. The only thing that stopped them, obviously, are the two fumbles. And unfortunately for you guys, we're not going to be covering those because they were rushes. But that's something that we've talked about ad nauseum on Twitter, on social media, all together. If those things continue, we're going to dive into those more. Obviously, it is, something that is in his game and it's on film and people are attacking it. But tonight we're going to focus on the passing game. And, it's just one of those things, the fumbles I'm talking about, that it is very correctable. Wouldn't you say, Nate?
I think so. Yeah. I think too, a lot of what we'll end up talking about is that second fumble is a bit of an anomaly. I mean, I would rather Josh Allen fumble the football to be able to protect himself in that kind of situation where he's getting flipped over end over end. And at the end of the day, Erik, I think he knows it. I know Sean McDermott knows it. I know that Brian Daboll knows it. I know the fan base knows it. And, frankly, I think for a lot of our sakes, Josh Allen gets basically judged on 3 plays from that football game. And none of them are all of the positives that he did in that game. Instead, all of the talk is around 1 throw, and it's about 2 fumbles. And if you go back in that game, if you take those 3 plays out, you're talking about what his run grade could potentially be in that football game. And I think Pro Football Focus has him at like a 46, 48 run grade. And those 2 fumbles were the primary reason you saw that run grade take a drop. And I think for me, the crazy thing is his ability as a runner almost continues to get better, Erik. It almost, he brings like a new phase to the game. It seems like little by little. And I think the one phase to this game is that I saw that I really liked was it's very difficult for a defense to prepare for an offense that's going to run at you with 10 lead blockers. It's just hard to defend. And say what you will, you don't want Josh Allen to be in those positions. You don't want him taking unnecessary hits. I get it. But this is a player that with the ball in his hands is a absolute X factor. The reason that, in run looks, Josh Allen on 4th and 1 in a look that is not advantageous to running the football, can take a shotgun snap, run upfield, and get a first down in a situation where maybe you don't feel as confident lining up under center, turning around and handing the ball off because of the numbers look in the box. So,
right.
He is sort of the ultimate X factor, the sort of the ultimate. I don't know. I don't really have a good word for him because there isn't a lot of players.
He's just a weapon, bro. He's a weapon. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like the game that Lamar Jackson plays, but that dude's filthy. He is so difficult to defend. And, a lot of people talk about the design runs called by Dable. Okay, I think he carried it 14, 15 times. 5 of those were scrambles, so you take those away altogether. 2 of those were QB kneels. So about 8 of those carries of Josh Allen versus the Jets last week were actual design calls. And at least half of those were what? They were read option type plays. They ran midline, they ran zone read. They were plays that very easily could have gone just to the running back. But because of what happened by the defender, the edge defender, that read defender, Josh kept it, and he screwed up a couple times on those zone reads. It obviously showed that their timing wasn't down, which obviously has something to do with COVID and not having preseason, because they cannot run full speed, game speed at least, versus their defense. And obviously he's not taking hits against his defense. So all of those things had a factor. And I'm not giving excuses for his fumbles. I'm talking about the reads, because making those reads, carrying that mesh out, that stuff takes reps, and it takes reps at game speed to get that timing down, not just the mesh, but the eyes on that read defender. And obviously we saw him struggle with that last week against the Jets. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Eric, I thought too that the Jets slow played those read options textbook. I thought that in that game, that defensive line played absolutely lights out against the Bills' offensive line. The one redeeming area of the New York Jets is going to be that defensive line, not at the edge, but right at the middle. And I think your point on the midline, there are a couple of plays in that game where Josh Allen makes the wrong decision on a read, pulls it, and makes a play that only 3 humans on earth, Josh Allen being one of them, Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson being the other 2 players, and frankly, maybe just Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, can make the types of plays where it's sniffed out, there's a free rusher, Josh Allen makes one guy miss, he's got first down yardage. There are very few players in the NFL, especially at the quarterback position, that have the ability to make a misread on an option play and still figure out a way to make it a positive one. And that's the kind of player, that's the kind of athlete, and that's the kind of weapon that Josh Allen is. And, I get some of the concern, but at the same time, sure. Listen, if he can clean that up, if he can stop fumbling the football, we're going to talk a lot less about, I don't want my quarterback taking unnecessary hits. You don't want him taking unnecessary hits because you don't want him to cough up the football. And I get that. Yeah. But you also don't clip, one of the best attributes of a player who, by the way, accounts for roughly 90% of your offense. Like this guy, Josh Allen, right now, the entire offense is running through Josh Allen. And even if you go back to 2015, which is a year where I feel like maybe you had your best quarterback play of the decade, the offense was not running through Tyrod Taylor. The offense was a run first, pass second offense. This offense is the run game runs through Josh, the pass game runs through Josh, the checks to the line of scrimmage run through Josh. Like by year 3, a lot of what we're seeing, he's miles ahead of people in his class other than, Lamar Jackson.
And of course, his improvement, if you put it on some type of metric or scale, he's improved probably just as much as, maybe better than any of the QBs in his class. And just real quick, just the rushing angle, because I love that Dable pulled it out in the first game. Because why? Because now the rest of the year, every team has to practice versus those plays. They have to have someone that can run those plays from their practice squad, from their practice squad players, to imitate that. Because if those defenses don't practice that, Josh Allen's just going to come in and he's going to run all over them. And you look at this, 2019, just to give you an idea on how good he is as a rusher, he was 7th in yards after contact. So, that big body of his, it does wonders for the run game. And when he does decide to scramble or even those design runs, obviously 9 touchdowns. Look how many, he had 17 runs of 10 or more, a ton of yards after contact, obviously. And then, the fumbles, that's what stands out. So, he has to correct that. All right. He does have to correct that, but you have to keep putting it on film. You have to show it. You have to make them defend it, because that's what your job as an offensive coordinator is to do. It's to maximize your players. It's to maximize their skill set. It's to make that defensive coordinator not sleep at night. And Josh Allen, with his arm, with his legs, with his competitiveness, he does all of that. He keeps defensive coordinators up late at night, and it starts with his legs, whether that's designed or scrambles. That's what defensive coordinators have to scheme for week in and week out for this guy. And if he can show that he can pass, at that volume, at that efficiency, at that rate that he did versus the Jets, watch out, because Josh Allen's going to step his game up to another level. And I'm not sure, when you throw that visor on him, I don't know if they're ready for it, Nate.
Bro, don't even get me going on the visor. Visor Josh Allen, it's game over. They're 100% not ready for it.
All right, brother. It was good talking numbers, but we're here for film. So let's go ahead and jump into the film room. All right, guys. First play of the night. We're looking at a 2-by-2 formation. The Bills come out, and they're in 10 personnel, Nate. This is story of the day.
The new norm, baby.
Yeah, I love it. It's something we're going to talk about the rest of the year. It's a new trend. I'm glad that Dable self-scouted and scouted the league. This is gonna, with the receivers and weapons they have on offense, this is where the Bills need to be. I think they'll work out the kinks and as far as running out of 10 personnel, but you will see throughout this breakdown what that does to a defense. And I want you guys to pay attention to the defensive front, because when you're watching it from this angle, as Nate would tell you, it's a little different. You can't see everybody. You don't have the all 22. So what you need to pay attention to is how many guys can you see up front. So obviously we have 4 guys down right here, down the line of scrimmage, and then you have another 5 at the second level. And as you can see, I have it drawn up that the Jets are basically rolling into a Tampa 2 here. So on the snap, you're going to see Brian Poole drop to the deep hole right there, right? And so he's dropping here, and Josh knows this. Greg Williams loves to play cover 2. I think they ran it 22 times in this game out of 52 plays. Out of 52 dropbacks, they ran cover 2 or Tampa 2 22 different times. This is early in the game. They do it here, and you see Josh's eyes get to the bottom of the screen. Why is that? Because the route to the bottom is called their deep pivot. It's probably Josh Allen's favorite concept. If you go to our YouTube channel, I have a whole playlist. There's like 25 videos of Josh Allen running this specific concept. So what does this consist of? It consists of Stephon Diggs getting stem inside, then he's getting vertical, and based on the leverage of that corner, or based on the coverage rolling to him, he's either going to run a deep out, he's either going to curl it up, or even sometimes he's gonna kind of hit a 45 and go to the corner on a corner route. And then the number 2 receiver here is Gabe Davis. All he's doing is a diagonal route. Some people call it a flat route. In the Patriots system, in Dable's system, he's running a flat route. So he's just coming out here. And I want you, Nate, to talk about Josh Allen's eyes, where they're going to, and is he working low to high? Is he working high to low? And why is that?
Well, I think first and foremost, in order to have success in a play like this, you first need to be able to diagnose what the defense is trying to do, right? And obviously the defense is trying to show them a cover 3 look early on. You can see that both corners are off the line of scrimmage, both in what look to be cover 3 techniques. But the thing that you obviously notice right away is the Brian Poole, who bails out in that cover 2 look. Josh Allen does a great job diagnosing it and getting to the short side of the field. And I think the most important thing here is understanding what Bless Austin is trying to do with number 31, the Jets corner on the bottom of the screen here. So he's trying to make contact with Gabe Davis right off the play, but he's trying to play both routes.
Yep,
and
he's
so
spacing them,
Right. So he's trying and probably what he's coached in this moment is you really want to split the difference between both wide receivers in this case, so that you give yourself the best opportunity to play both. What Josh Allen does well here is keeps him in a position where he has to continue respecting Stephon Diggs, but he's already made his decision where the ball's going. And not only is it thrown accurately, but he gives Gabe Davis an opportunity to catch the ball, turn upfield, and make a little something out of nothing in this case. And again, of course, this is the first play of the game offensively for you. You want to establish that you're going to have success. You're getting a completion on first down, and you're moving the chain up and giving yourself a second and manageable here. So a lot to like about a very simple, a very straightforward first play of the game. But I think what this play does is really sets the tone for the rest of the game on how Josh Allen performs as a passer. You and I have talked about this, Erik, a ton of times about why Josh Allen, and why particular Brian Dable, likes to be pass happy early in games. It's to get Josh Allen into a rhythm. Josh he's like a golfer, right? He needs to see that drive go down the center of the fairway on hole number 1. And when it goes down the center of the fairway on hole number 1, he just has that confidence, and then he can start stacking. And I think at one point, Josh Allen was like 8 of 8. So this was really the beginning of what I think was a chain reaction. And I'm glad that you circled Cole Beasley on this play. He really turned this into a half-field read. And frankly, I'm totally fine with it.
But why is that, though? That is the EP offense. That is the Earhart-Perkins offense. They split coverage beaters. So on the bottom of the screen, you're seeing that deep pivot. That's usually pretty good against split safety coverages like cover 2, like Tampa 2. So that's why Josh's eyes start to the bottom of the screen, and people are going to say, oh my God, Cole Beasley is wide open. Well, guess what? He's following what the system tells him to do. You heard him talk about with Tony Romo in the offseason about where his eyes should be and what coverage they're not in. Well, guess what? He knows what coverage they're in. He knows they're in a split safety look, and post-snap, he confirmed it. That's why his eyes start to the bottom. That's why he takes that little check down to the bottom of the screen and doesn't throw it to Cole Beasley there. I know a lot of people are going to see that and be like, oh, hold on. He missed a wide open guy. Well, guess what? He hit the guy he was supposed to. He worked high to low, right, Nate?
High to low, and that's where you get this result. Is I think Josh understands, and it's again disclaimer, we can't see the safety here. More than likely the safety's in a position over the top. I'm glad that Josh doesn't try to stretch this out on the first play of the game. Get your completion, get to second down, make it second and manageable, and give your offense and yourself an opportunity to stack some plays together, and that's exactly what they did.
All right, Nate, still in the first quarter, 8:20 on the clock. It's 1st and 10. The Bills are in 11 personnel, and you can see the formations condensed. The ball's on the right hash. John Brown's to the top of the screen, and a nasty alignment on the line of scrimmage. And, you have Dawson Knox right here in a 2-point stance directly in front of the running back, Devin Singletary. And the Bills are going to run a play-action pass here. And, again, it's not something they did a lot of out of shotgun last year. According to Sports Info Solutions, they only ran play action off of shotgun, and this is separate from RPOs 44 times last year, so it was under 3 times a game, right around 2 times a game, and it's just something that they didn't do a lot of. And we always have that discussion about, first of all, we always wanted them to run 30% or more play action with him, regardless if it's out of gun or a pistol or from under center. That's something we've been clamoring for years. But second of all, a lot of people say, well, if you don't run it under center, you're not going to get that second level to bite. You know what? I think what it came down to in this game is play action was run so often and it worked so well, not because it got those second level defenders to come up into the box and defend the run, but I think it helped to minimize and slow down what little pass rush the Jets did have, and that's something I'm sure you'll talk about. So play action here, I want you to talk about, first of all, Dawson Knox as the H-back, as that sniffer role. We saw him motion a lot. We saw him shift a lot. He helped Josh Allen ID coverages, all things we're going to talk about, but I want to hear your thoughts off the top about putting him in that role versus having a fullback like Gilliam or DeMarco in there.
I wonder, watching that game and seeing him line up in this position like he did, I really wonder if Patrick DeMarco isn't hurt, is there a place on the roster for him? Because, maybe from a special teams perspective, but I love what this infusion, this look has done and will do for the offense moving forward, in particular Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox, there's no question, is a mauler. He can block. He's a willing blocker. This particular position for him, being able to play that H-back role, that sort of fullback, hybrid fullback, that's going to get him in a ton of advantageous looks against. And what I love about this is Brian Daboll, first of all, loved using fullbacks at times last year because it's a good way to identify coverage. It's a good way to identify what the defense is trying to do. And in this case, if you are Dawson Knox and you're Brian Daboll and you're trying to create matchups for Dawson Knox against linebackers, well, this is a very easy and simple way to do that. What I also love about it is you were talking about the play action out of shotgun, and one of the things I wanted to mention is traditionally I would agree that out of under center, the quarterback's turning his back, he's showing the football. There is advantages to that, I do think.
Sure.
I do think because the time it takes for the quarterback to meet the mesh point of the running back is enough time for that linebacker. He's got to make a decision on whether or not that's a run or a pass. Having said that, the bind that shotgun and these types of play action, it is the same action. The quarterback is putting the ball in the same point, in the same mesh point every time, whether it's pass or run. So if it looks the same every single time, whether it's a run or a pass, you can make the case that, maybe you're not getting the same action that you would from under center. But I think what you're doing is you're creating consistency in that look, which makes it harder to defend. And I guess really ultimately what I mean by that is if a run or if a read option looks exactly like a play action, how's a linebacker supposed to commit to that? So the idea that the shotgun play action maybe doesn't give you the same type of bite ability from that linebacker, I'm not really buying that, because I think from a consistency standpoint, if that looks the same, it makes it very difficult to defend. And on a play like this, where you've got a lot of people in a condensed area on the field, that play action literally opens up the passing lane for Josh Allen to complete this pass to John Brown.
Yeah, and there's so many things going on here. So again, okay, they're in shotgun, so they're maybe not getting those linebackers to bite up, but you get one because you see the lead back. Obviously, Dawson Knox leading the way here. But if you think about it, just this formation alone, you still have several threats to this side. This is almost like a 4-strong formation. So the passing strength is right here to the wide side of the field still. You have a tight alignment from John Brown. So, I mean, you're still putting all of your passing weapons, if this were to be some kind of a pass to the field, you're putting them all there. So you're making them overload to the field here, but then you're showing run. You're showing run with Dawson Knox. This linebacker comes up, but then watch the feet of Neville Hewitt. He doesn't drop back, straight back. What does he do? He kind of tilts this way, coming downhill, cover for that linebacker that has to fill. He has to fill because it looks like a lead. It looks like an ISO play, so he has to fill. You see Neville Hewitt, he kind of retreats to the hash, and then that route by Brown, he widens the corner, so that corner has to maintain leverage. He has to stay outside him with his eyes on Josh Allen, and then you'll see him break to the middle of the field. But Nate, we're here for Josh Allen. I want you to talk about the play fake to the left, and then the footwork it takes to get back to the right, get his eyes back to the right, and to make this throw, because this is not an easy throw, and this is something we have seen. We saw Duke Williams score against the Titans on almost a similar play in the red zone.
Yeah, and on this play, you're kind of using the momentum of the play action to swing you back around, and if you're Josh Allen in this, he does a great job creating the plane that he needs to get on. He's balanced on this play. He's not too wide. He always is a little wide. Josh and Baker, to me, are the two quarterbacks in football right now who have a pretty naturally wide base that works with them and not against them. It's fairly rare to see that.
I think that's mainly one thing I did notice from last year to this year. I think it's mainly to the right. That's one thing I noticed with him. His base is super wide to his right, but then to the left, where he throws obviously a little better efficiently and more efficiently, it looks like his base is better, which is a weird thing, but that's another breakdown for another day. But I mean, this right here, it's tough to swing your body around like that, though, right?
It is, and frankly, he definitely, I would say, because of how quick he makes this decision and how quick he makes the throw, that I think, I mean, on his final step, he knew, the ball was coming out. So what I love about this play is the decisiveness and the trust. Like at this point, what we're watching Josh do during this game is trust his weapons, right? But I think even maybe more impressively, and maybe impressive isn't the word, but maybe most importantly, Josh is trusting what he sees. And Josh is trusting what's going on upstairs and the processing ability. And these are the types of plays that you just probably aren't making. Josh Allen isn't making his rookie season. To your point, the play action, the play call on this is really important, but there's a window. Josh Allen throws an accurate football to a guy who can make a catch and then get upfield and get some additional yardage. These are all things that are not synonymous with Josh Allen, the quarterback, is throwing accurately, leading a guy into clean space that he can make a play upfield, get rid of the ball on time, trusting what he sees, trusting the guys. Like, those are all things that, 2 years ago aren't really synonymous traits to Josh Allen.
Right, and I know this isn't a red zone play, but the way that they set up 4 strong to the field and they put Brown into the boundary and a nasty alignment, everything's condensed. Everyone's, in those tight formations and tight alignments. This almost shows and feels like a red zone play. Josh has to be quick, he has to be decisive, and he has to throw it accurately. And that's one thing we've always liked about Allen, is him in the red zone, not just because he doesn't turn it over and, obviously he's a threat with his legs, but he does have that arm strength. And this is when it comes in hand for him, because, he's able to just wing it in there. And this one is pretty accurate, and it allows Brown to catch it and get some yards after the catch. All right, Nate, 7:11 on the clock. It is the first quarter, 1st and goal. And one thing the Jets did a lot of versus the Bills in the red zone was play zone coverage, drop 8 men into coverage, and you see them do that here. And again, I want you guys to pay attention to how many guys are up near the line of scrimmage. So you obviously have, 5 guys right here, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So the other safeties off the field. And what you're going to see here is them drop into Tampa 2 coverage with 8 men, and the Bills have 10 personnel out there. And this is what's so great about, having 10 personnel and the weapons they have. Well, guess what? The Jets were like, screw that. I am not playing man-to-man in the red zone like, teams typically do. I'm not trying to go mano-a-mano with those weapons that you guys have. We're just going to drop as many guys into coverage as we can and hope that Josh Allen, obviously doesn't run the ball because all eyes are on him and has to play quarterback. And Josh Allen does a great job here. He does another high to low read to the bottom of the screen. And what you're going to see from the Bills on this play is they're going to run a smash concept, and Josh Allen's going to reset his mechanics. So to the bottom of the screen, you're going to have John Brown do a little curl route right here. Diggs is in the slot. And of course, when you get in the red zone, you have a guy like Diggs. He's a red zone monster, as is Cole Beasley last year. He was obviously pretty good in the red zone for the Bills too. He's right here in the slot to the top of the screen. But everyone knows where Diggs is, and including the corner to the bottom of the screen, bless Austin. And so what Diggs is going to do, he's going to run the high route. He's going to run basically a little smash, and he's going to add a little spice to the route. He's going to break to the corner eventually. So they're going to run a little smash concept. And Josh Allen, again, is working high to low on this play. So he's looking to the bottom of his screen right here. And, once he gets down his eyes to the bottom of the screen, you see bless Austin. He knows that Diggs is going to the deep corner, the deep pylon, so he's going to fall off there. And Josh, he initially wants to throw it to Diggs. You can see him. He releases his left hand off the ball, starting that delivery, and you can see his shoulders, right, Nate? He's got a little tilt. He's going to probably try to throw it up and over to the corner pylon to Diggs here, but he resets here. He doesn't throw it to him because he sees Austin and, of course, probably that safety breaking on it. So Diggs is taken away. Well, guess what? John Brown's sitting right here in that hook to curl area. He's got a little lane because this linebacker is not quite there. So all he has to do is make eye contact with Josh, show his numbers, and have Josh reset and throw it to him. He does that here. And again, just working high to low, taking what the defense gives you, right, Nate?
Yeah, and the other thing too that we got to at least acknowledge, 5 wides at the 10-yard line.
Yes.
Sexy.
It's great, right? Because of his legs as well. It's something they did a ton last year. I think they ran empty the 6th most last year, and they did it a lot in the red zone last year. A lot of you guys remember the Browns game because he's still a threat to run. I mean, so you still have a running back in there that can also pass. That's the way you got to look at it.
Yeah, and on this play too, I do like him. One of the things that's been sort of a theme early on here is they've really been taking advantage of the short side of the field. And when you have an arm like Josh Allen, the short side becomes a weapon. As much as the strong side and the wide side of the field is too when you have a big arm quarterback. But the windows become a little tighter on the short side. But I think also one of the things that I love about this play in particular is like watching John Brown sort of find the open space. But that linebacker on the other angle, this is much closer. This looks very easy from the broadcast angle. It is inches away from that linebacker's hands. And this is a really good way to look at it right here. I mean, we're talking inches away from 2 players, the defensive end and the linebacker. So the idea that this is just some sort of simple, straightforward check down, I don't think is the case. And to your point too, being able to adjust your body on the fly like that to deliver an accurate throw. I think the theme of what I'll probably continue talking about is things that we're seeing from Josh Allen that we just didn't get to see a lot from him early in his career in his first 2 seasons. And these are the sort of developments from a, mechanic standpoint so some of the things that maybe you just weren't always a given in Josh Allen's game. I mean, on this play, Josh Allen, for the most part, is in a perfect position to make the necessary play. And when you're a quarterback and your mind is set on throwing to Stephon Diggs, which it looked like it was, it takes a pretty significant amount of athleticism to mid-motion stop it, reset, and deliver a ball on a rope accurately to a guy so he can turn around and run. So, yeah, I mean, this is an impressive play because of the simplicity of it, but the right read. But what it took to actually deliver the pass accurately, I think, is the impressive part.
Yeah, and it's one of the plays. It's a simple high-low read. It's a smash concept. He's always been good at those.
Yeah.
I love how you mentioned throwing to the short side of the field. Arm strength does come into play there. But his mechanics, it's something we talked about all offseason, and he does a great job of resetting that shoulder. Again, look at how that front shoulder's up a little high. You can almost, not see his chin strap there, but then after he resets that shoulder, now look at those shoulders are pretty much squared right there. They're leveled. But again, now watch him. Watch that front arm. Watch that left arm. Watch him bite the burger. Look at his elbow is tight to his body. I mean, that's exactly right there is what he was working on all summer with Jordan Palmer. That right there. And, he's worked really hard at doing this. And on a lot of these throws, especially to his left, I think he's a little more tighter when it comes to his throwing motion and his rotational force and throwing to his left than he is with his right. And I think, again, we talked about it earlier, that throwing to his right, he's a little open more. Here, look at his base, man. It's nice.
Really narrow. I mean, not really overly narrow, but like he's balanced. And frankly, if he's really wide there, I don't know if I love his ability to make this throw if he's overly wide.
Yeah, I like his base here. It's tight. You can see him rotate through. It's accurate, and he's able to make it through traffic and give John Brown a shot.
It's weird seeing those stands, man. It's weird seeing that. I know. That's a weird view, man.
I know, and that's why, like, when you brought that picture in your background, I'm like, man, that's not real. It would only be you there, bro. But no, good play by Josh Allen, and just getting it to his playmakers, being that distributor, being that point guard, and making plays, and keeping playing within himself, and keeping his mechanics as tight as he can from play to play, and we see that here versus the Jets. All right, Nate, we're still in the first quarter. Bills are up 7-0. It's 2:41 left on the clock in the first quarter, second and goal. And the Bills are in 11 personnel. They have Gabe Davis tight to the formation, tight to the line of scrimmage right here. And on the snap, you're going to see Josh scan the entire field. And again, it's another play action play, this time to Zach Moss, but you're going to see Dawson Knox. He's going to stay in and block. So he's a sift blocker right here. He's coming across the formation. So the Bills are basically sending out three receivers right here. And then Zach Moss, after the play fake, he's the check down. And he really makes this play here. This is a heads-up play by the rookie. After the play fake, he works his way through the line of scrimmage. And, of course, Josh is trying to get it to the digs to the top of the screen as the Jets drop basically 8 guys into coverage here. So in this condensed area, the ball is spotted, at the 4.5, almost 5-yard line. There's not much room for the Bills to operate with their 4 receivers, and you can see the green across the goal line. I mean, all those defenders are sitting pretty much right at the goal line. Everything's taken away, and Josh just extends the play just a little bit, but he has help from Zach Moss here. I want you to talk about Moss and what he does here, because you can see him peeking back and taking a look at what the Jets are playing here, right, Nate?
Yeah, veteran. It's a veteran move for a rookie playing in his first game. And what he does, the best thing you can do as a receiver, and especially in these types of situations where you have the quarterback breaking the pocket, is find yourself a place to make yourself available for your quarterback. And what he does is he does a nice job getting the attention of his quarterback while also not getting the attention of the defense. And I was just saying this to you, and I think it's silly at this point, but like, if you're a defensive coordinator, if you're Greg Williams, I just don't understand the value of running a drop 8 in a red zone situation like this, because the integrity of your linebackers right here, 2 players going after him opens up that play. If I'm Greg Williams or if I'm a defensive coordinator in football, this is the last play I'm trying to run against Josh Allen in this goal to go situation where we're at the 4-yard line and he's got shotgun situation and 3 players going out for routes. It just, to me, yes, does this give this gives your defense, your defensive backs and your linebackers the ability to cover space. And yes, in theory, if you cover up enough space in the red zone, especially with that tight, it being at the 4-yard line, in theory, you should be able to stop anything that the offense wants to do through the air. But this is not a normal passing offense. This is a passing offense that has a quarterback in Josh Allen who can move and draw 4 of the defenders that are supposed to be in their zones up towards him, and it opens up the rest of the field for him. So, and in this case, I think what Zach Moss does a great job of doing is finding a nice little soft zone to sit in and make himself available. And obviously the throw is a good one. I love this. Sort of has like a little feel if you've watched the first Monday night game, the Denver Broncos game, the Drew Lock throw over to Noah Fant. It's not as dramatic across his body, but what he does a nice job of doing here is pulling almost all of those defenders away from their primary positions in that zone, and he opens it up by being athletic. So, I just think I'm going to keep going back to this. I think this is a look that the Bills are going to see less and less of, because Josh Allen does such a good job diagnosing it and knowing how to beat it. And if you're the Jets defense, are you going to let Josh Allen break the pocket and not have two defenders go after him? No, and in most cases, one guy isn't bringing him down. So it becomes a very difficult defense to have success with at this point of the field against this quarterback and in this scheme. So, yeah, I mean, it's picture perfect execution, but to me, what it does is this is going to scare off, I think, a lot of defensive coordinators for trying to run this type of play, this type of scheme inside the red zone against Josh Allen.
All right, Nate, on to the touchdown by John Brown. I mean, it was a work of art from Josh Allen. Kudos to the staff for putting in audibles to beat cover zero, and that's what we see here. We see a recognition by Josh Allen, but we're going to take it from the top, because initially the play call is 72 Linda Z Washington. Again, you can hear that in the broadcast. That's Josh right now, telling his offense that play. But he sees that safety come down into the box, and so he does. You can see him looking right at him right now, and he's like, okay, the middle of the field's wide open, and there's 10 seconds left on the clock. I got enough time to audible this to a play that we worked on probably all week. And so you see him go and check to gold solo rip. And he does that because, as I said, it's cover zero. So if you look to the top of the screen, the Bills have 3 receivers, and you have 3 defenders from the Jets. Down on the line of scrimmage, you have 5 defenders on the line of scrimmage. And then, of course, the linebacker and safety right here obviously are blitzing. And to the bottom right of the screen, you can see what John Brown's looking at. You can see that that safety, or that corner, is an off in soft coverage, and the middle of the field is wide open. And so the Bills have a numbers leverage here, and they have some spatial leverage here. And so that's why Josh Allen checks to this screenplay to John Brown, and he gets those guys out front. Look at the tackle, Darrell Williams. He has the corner, and then Stephon Diggs in the middle of the field is going to take Marcus May, and it's just an easy walk-in touchdown for John Brown. So talk about the throw, talk about the pre-snap recognition by Allen.
Yeah, first of all, A+ on the pre-snap recognition on this play, and audibling to something, and I think the point to be made here is he did it by himself. This last audible, the microphone in his, or the microphone in his headset in his helmet's off. Dable is unable to communicate with the quarterback once 10-second mark hits here. So what we're seeing is the full evolution of Josh in this offense. Is not only is he able to understand, diagnose a cover zero look, which, by the way, a year ago, we were all terrified of happening. We were terrified of a defense throwing a cover zero look at Josh Allen and him being unable to diagnose it and put his team into a find the hot read or put his offense into an advantageous position against a cover zero look. What he does here is he does both. And what I think say what you will about the throw, it wasn't a great throw, but are we grading screen passes now? Because I think at the end of the day, what was the result? The result was the quarterback put the offense in a position to win. He put the offense in a position to score. Was it a perfect throw where he didn't have to go to the ground to pick it up and potentially almost hit the ground? No, but at the end of the day, if that's what we're picking out of this play, is we're going to nitpick and say, well, I can't positively grade this play because Josh Allen threw it low. I just think that is it's poo-poo brain stuff, right? For me, the stuff pre-snap was always in this particular situation going to outweigh whatever the throw looked like. This play can't be set up without Josh Allen making the check. So there's a lot to love about this play, but the thing that I love about it is the headsiness of the quarterback, understanding this is how you beat a cover zero look. And for me, that bodes well because it's still a defense that I think defensive coordinators are going to have in their bag. And they're going to say, we're going to run cover zero against Josh Allen until he beats us. Well, it's already on film in week 1 that he understands how to check to a play that can beat it. That's going to scare off some defensive coordinators for running this kind of scheme against Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I watched some of the Patriots and Dolphins game from this past weekend, and can bet your bottom dollar that Brian Flores is going to run some cover zero. He did it against Cam Newton, and Cam Newton struggled on where to go with the ball. He had no hot read, he had no sight adjustment, and he ended up having to throw it away a couple times. So it's going to happen, especially with the corners that they have. You're going to see zero blitzes. Josh Allen has to show that he can do this without his coordinator in his ear late in the play clock like that.
Good for Stephon Diggs, too, by the way, for getting dirty on that play and being the potential block that springs us for a touchdown. If Stephon Diggs doesn't get his hat on a man, John Brown's likely not getting in the end zone.
Nope, especially Marcus May right there, too. I agree with you there. All right, Nate, we're near the end of the first half, and you're going to see the Bills come out in an empty set, and Devin Singletary motions to the backfield, and he has Neville Hewitt on him. So a linebacker versus a running back, that usually identifies the coverage as man coverage, and you're going to see that unfold here on 3rd and 3. This is what the Bills want. You want to play man coverage in critical situations, we're going to make you pay. So what they do is, and they did this a lot, there was a lot of pre-snap motion this game, something we haven't really talked about. The Bills were really good with pre-snap motion, and this just helps Josh Allen be successful. It helps him identify the coverage. So as you see McKenzie orbit motion to the backfield here, almost like you said before going live, it's almost like a college feel. It's almost like a Kansas City Chiefs feel. Yeah. You're going to see the corner, Austin, pass McKenzie to Poole. So instead of having Austin come across the formation, try to chase McKenzie in man coverage, he passes in the Poole. Hey, look, they're on the same page. It looks great. They're in great shape. But the ball is snapped, and McKenzie changes direction, and look at Poole. He gets caught in no man's land. Diggs is now man-on-man versus Austin, and you can see McKenzie's wide open, and he has space, and with his speed, he easily gets the first down here. So talk about this play and how Dable and his staff had this defense, had Greg Williams marked from the jump.
Talk about using a discipline, a technique against them. Like what they're doing on this play, what Brian Dable is drawing up is exactly what is Greg Williams, who does he yell at on this play? Because what Brian Dable was successfully able to do on this play was use the play call from the sidelines, from Greg Williams, against his own defense. And the technique and the discipline on this play is picture perfect across the board for every Jets defender. This play was sniffed out, except for the play except for the person who the play was intended to go to. So to me, there's so much creativity in this play call. There's
so many layers to it, right?
Correct. And so much, we used this term last year a couple times, window dressing. This play forces the defense to basically audible, right? They're forced to go into a situation where they can't defend the play. And it's very simple, but having it what it felt like is it almost feels like the Navy feel, where you have the running backs in the wing tee, and you have your motion back, which we know the wing backs in that wing tee go in motion every play. But a lot of those misdirection counter option plays start with that counter back making the motion behind, stopping, and then being the pitch back. He's essentially a glorified pitch back here. Yeah. But it's a hybrid play that it just, again, talk about giving your quarterback such an easy layup. How many times in years past have we talked about Brian Dable creating layups, or even before that, just offensive coordinators here in Buffalo creating layups for the quarterbacks? That is something you have to be able to scheme. And this is a play where you can tell the research was thoroughly done. There was plenty of R&D done before this game. Yeah. And for me, it's just super impressive to watch a defense 95% cover this play, but the actual design of the play is meant to beat exactly what you're doing to make a shift into being able to cover the play. So it's just really creative stuff from Brian Dable. Great execution from the offense in a whole here, but this one is just a tip of the cap to Brian Dable.
All right, Nate. So we're at the end of the first half right now. 1:42 left on the clock. Bills up 21-0. They're going for the throat here.
As they should.
Yeah, as they should. The Jets, again, play that cover two shell, split safety look. You're going to see Hewitt get to the deep hole again, so he's that deep hole player in the Tampa 2 look. And Diggs is in the slot, and you're going to see him run a little another smash concept with him and John Brown. It's going to be a whip route by John Brown to the top of the screen, and then Diggs, I'll do it in slow motion. You see him break outside, and then he's going to break back to the middle on a Dino post. Here is John Brown. He's going to whip it back to the sideline here. And from the broadcast angle, I will say this looks risky, but you got to think about this split safety look. And I think if we had the all 22, I think we'd have a little different perspective or opinion on this, but we'll go off of what we have here. Look what Marcus May is. He's basically just inside the numbers. And I think what they're trying to do with that middle of the field open look with that cover 2 shell is get Diggs to the middle of the field on this Dino post. And I think May just plays it really well. I think he cuts Diggs off, and you'll see it from the other angle. I think he cuts Diggs off, and Allen actually probably put it in a decent spot. What's your thoughts on this play, Nate?
Yeah, I think Elam makes a good throw here. I think he makes the right read too. I think at the end of the day, we're seeing an example of a defense winning a play that, who, by the way, didn't win very many plays in a game. So I just think that Marcus May, again, I think we said this earlier in the podcast, that Marcus May on this day was probably the Jets' best and most consistent defender. And this is a really good example of a play that really, in my opinion, changes a bit of the outcome of the game here. I mean, the outcome stayed the same, but this went from what could have been a 28-0 halftime lead to a 21-3 lead because Marcus May makes this play. And, you know, frankly, to not get lost in the sauce on that dig, he kind of makes that move towards the outside, towards the sidelines to bring it back in to create that space. To not get lost in that sauce against Diggs, who's, again, he's one of the best route runners in football. For you to not bite on that and immediately make an aggressive play, read the quarterback's eyes, this is one of those plays you just got to take the cap off and tip it to a Jets defender.
Well, think about it. We talk about Dable and how he stacked and sequenced his plays. We covered a play earlier that Josh Allen hit John Brown on a smash concept with Diggs going to the corner. So they faked the corner, and with a middle of field open look, guess what? Now we're attacking in the middle. And May, he stayed home, and again, I think he out-muscles Diggs. I think if you watch the all-22, I think that's what ends up happening. Diggs gets out-muscled here, but I think hypothetically, if Diggs were to get across the face of May, I think the location of this throw is actually quite good for Diggs to score a touchdown here. But obviously, May made a better play here, and I think Josh took a lot of blame for a risky throw, but it was a timing throw. Those Dino posts, those bang posts are on point. They're in rhythm. You have to throw it and trust your receiver is going to get across the face of that safety. He doesn't here. May makes a play, and the ball goes incomplete. All right, Nate, third quarter now, 10:06 on the clock, 1st and 10 situation. So you can see the backfield. They have Moss and Dawson Knox there. We have 2 receivers at the bottom of the screen, Diggs and Beasley in the slot, and John Brown to the top of the screen. So this formation is eerily similar to the throw that we saw Allen to Diggs on the bottom of the screen earlier, where they ran a little play action versus cover 3. But here, they're going to run that play action, and what we're going to see in this route combination with Beasley in there is Diggs is going to fake that speed out. He's going to run a little out and up, and Beasley's just going to go right down the seam. You see Josh executing the play action, and the throw is off here. I think, again, all 22 would help us come to a better conclusion here, but this throw is thrown probably inaccurately. We could say that, from this broadcast angle, and I want to get your thoughts on maybe why that happened, and, because obviously if Josh hits this throw in stride, Beasley's going to probably score.
House call. Yeah, but you know what? You're not throwing this ball with loft. So I can understand if you want to look at this play and say the throw is slightly disappointing, maybe we'll give this a negative grade. Having said that, you're not going to throw this on a 2 or 3 trajectory because that's how you get a player killed. And you're not going to lead Cole Beasley on an over the shoulder throw in the middle of the field. That's just not how this ball is thrown. It's thrown in the right trajectory. Frankly, I think that the decision was made early on enough in his decision-making process that I just wonder if this is thrown to maybe try to protect Cole Beasley. Again, it's going to be really hard to know that without seeing the all-22 angle. But I'm not going to say it's a perfect throw or a super accurately thrown ball, but it's a 20-yard gain and you're down the field. And should this be a house call? Yeah, but you're going to throw it on that trajectory, on that rope, regardless of whether it's Cole Beasley has to come back for it or has to turn around and come back to where I would like to see this ball thrown is I'd like to see it thrown to his right shoulder so he can turn around, catch it, and continue upfield, and it'd be a foot race. Him having to go to the ground is not what you want to see here. But at the end of the day, it's a positive play. They're moving the chains. We just want to see a slightly more accurate throw.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough to say without the all-22. My guess is that one thing that I've noticed with Josh, you're probably gonna have to deal with it on these play action passes from Gunn is when he's looking right here to his right, you see right there after that fake, it's a wide fake. You see him stretch it out right there to get that fake and that mesh. But now look at his base. His base is too wide. That's my guess of why it was inaccurate. So then when he throws, he's got to compensate for that, and it's a little underthrown. But I still like, you talked about trajectory. I do like the flatness to it, but it does have some ball speed taken off of it. So it's not a rocket. It's not quite the arc or trajectory, of that, up and over type throw. But it's got less ball speed, and I think he just loses some of the accuracy there because of his base. But again, very tough call when you can't see it from the end zone, when you can't really see his feet and, what he saw from that safety post-snap. All right, Nate, so now we're towards the end of the third quarter, 2nd and 12 situation, and this quite possibly might have been one of Josh Allen's best plays from top to bottom. Bills are in a 2-by-2 set. They have the running back offset to the top of the screen to the short side of the field, and what you're going to see on this play is a little pump fake from Josh Allen, and he's going to basically move Brian Poole. On the snap, watch John Brown to the bottom. You're going to see them drop into that Tampa 2. You see the linebacker get into that deep hole. Brian Poole is that hook to curl defender, that wall defender. Here comes John Brown on a shallow in-breaking route, and then you're going to have Beasley high-lowing that defender, Brian Poole, that hook to curl defender. And Josh, you can see him. He's setting as if he's going to throw it to Brown here, and maybe he is. Maybe this pump fake is just something he naturally does. He starts at delivery because we do see it a lot from him. Sometimes you can't tell if it's on purpose or not, but whatever. This is what a quarterback needs to do. He resets, and look what that little move does to Poole. He gets him flat-footed. He has John Brown jump that route, and then he just throws it behind him accurately between Poole, the other hook to curl defender, and then you see that linebacker dropping to the deep hole. This is just a good play by Josh Allen, top to bottom, a tight window throw here, a decisive, anticipatory throw by the third-year quarterback.
Yeah, and quite the opposite on the last play we showed. This is just a really well, accurately thrown ball, but this ball doesn't happen without trust. And less about the trust that we're seeing between him and the receivers, and more just trust of what he's seeing with his eyes. And his manipulation with that pump fake, it's going to be a serious, if Josh Allen continues to take steps as a quarterback, this pump fake, these types of pump fakes are going to be a major reason that he's able to manipulate a defense and create passing lanes. Because stuff like that, it opens up this passing lane for Cole Beasley to be open, and Josh Allen delivers a beautiful ball.
Talk about padding the ball. What defensive backs are taught when they're reading the eyes of the quarterback, when they're reading that delivery. What does the padding of the ball tell a defensive back when they're looking at the quarterback?
Well, I mean, if you're a defensive back in this situation, one of the things I know that you're definitely thinking about, and anyways, when you're padding the ball, one of the things that you would have to worry about as a defender is he using it to manipulate you, right? Like, and for me, is it a subtle pump fake? It's not as, I don't think it's as effective as a pump fake, but when these defensive backs have their eyes clued in on the quarterback, it's just subtleties.
It's cueing. It's
right.
Cueing
it's subtleties that he's able to create openings and passing lanes. And to me, that's the one thing I'm noticing in film of the first game this year that in times you just didn't see in years past with Allen, is that he's creating his own passing lanes with manipulation with his eyes and the ball, because the ball is a weapon even if it's not thrown. And what I mean by that is it can create space by creating that pump fake and having a good effective pump fake. I mean, Peyton Manning barely moved the ball forward. Like, he had two hands on the ball when he was pump faking, and it still created passing lanes for Peyton Manning even late into his career when teams weren't as scared about his arm. So that should tell you all you need to know about the effectiveness of what a pump fake can do to open up passing lanes.
Yeah, I mean, that padding of the ball usually cues a defensive back to break on the ball, run to the ball where his eyes are looking, and that's what Poole does. That's why he stops right there, And, you can't really see it too much, but you can see there is a defender right on Josh's legs as he throws it. And that's when that strength, that size, that physicality, and his ability to still complete that throw.
It's a heck of a pass.
As he's getting hit and his legs taken out. So that toughness, again, you're not just going to see it as a runner. You're going to see it in the pocket as well. And he's always a guy that's broken tackles in the pocket, obviously as a passer, but that right there, being able to deliver that throw, being able to manipulate guys, I mean, just little things like that, that's what we need to see from Josh more and more as his career carries on. That was just a heck of a play, probably one of my favorite plays from him against the Jets. All right, Nate, 3rd and goal, 10:49 on the clock, Bills up 21-10. You're seeing the Bills shift in this empty set. So here comes Moss in, and I don't think that the Bills and Josh Allen got a good read of this coverage. I don't think he understood exactly because of how rushed they are in the clock right now. So post-snap, you're going to see 3 receivers work to the top of the screen right here. And I think Josh looks to that side because he believes that it's possibly a zone. So his eyes appear to be in the wrong spot because the Jets end up playing man coverage, and the man beater concept is to the bottom of the screen between Diggs and Cole Beasley, and Cole Beasley's wide open, and it's just a sick route. Watch Beasley here in the slot. So the Jets defender in the slot thinks that Beasley and Diggs are running some type of little pick route. Like maybe Diggs is going to come across and pick him and then just run a little out. It's something that obviously the Bills run a lot of in the red zone man coverage. But Beasley breaks back inside. Look at this little move. Back inside, and he's wide open. And Josh, if his eyes were in the correct spot from the jump, this is a touchdown. Josh would throw it right here. Instead, you're going to see Josh try to extend the play, and he makes a risky play running out of the back of the pocket, fading away, and nearly throwing an interception. This is the Josh Allen we do not want to see anymore. Right, Nate?
That's right. And this is reminiscent of that Green Bay game his rookie year, right? Like these types of throws. And what you want to see is Josh Allen not make that throw anymore. This can't be a game occurrence. This can't happen once a game. And yes, we want to see him be able to identify Cole Beasley on this play, but I think you are probably right in that if he misdiagnoses the coverage, he's not going to look backside. So at the end of the day, trusting what he saw in this case actually failed him. And when you're in this situation and you're in the red zone and you're outside the pocket like this, throw the ball away.
Right. Even if it's 3rd down, throw it away. Because if the Jets, pick this off and somehow get the ball out in the open field, who knows? I mean, this was still at a point where, the Jets were hanging around. You just never know. I know it's 3rd down. He wants to make a play. Just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. All right, Nate, 7:55 on the clock. Bills up 24-10, 1st and 10 situation. Here comes Dawson Knox back into the formation. Marcus Mays over him. And what you're going to see from the Bills is another play action fake. Here comes Dawson Knox across the formation. And this is the throw from Allen up and over to Diggs down the field. Very reminiscent of Josh Allen to Duke Williams last year against the Dolphins. Nice play action throw up and over the top and drops it in the bucket. Talk about this play from Josh Allen. And, I really love these throws by Josh Allen. And it's something that we've seen him develop, right, since he's come to the Bills.
It's a thing of beauty, man. Just great touch throw. One of the things that I actually love is sort of his backing away from it. It's almost like he throws it off his back foot, but he's completely balanced. So it's got that feel where this is a really good example of Josh pulling out the pitching wedge, right? Like he's talked about not every throw has to be, not every throw has to be your driver. Yeah. And this is a perfect example of him being able to take a little off of it. And his body brings him to the ball. So I love the mechanics on this throw. It's a thing of beauty. Drops it in the bucket, and more, this reminds me a little bit of the Dawson Knox touchdown. Well, it wasn't a touchdown. It went on the 1 yard line against the Patriots last year on Monday night. It reminds me a lot of that play in particular because that bucket throw, although there's no primary defender in front of Diggs, you could probably throw this on a one trajectory and get him to the sidelines. It's way prettier this way.
Yeah, and I love your point about the mechanics, and they play action faked. He's kind of half rolling to the other side, getting movement there, and then watch him set his feet. He's not super open like he used to do, coming out of Wyoming. You see him; it's actually a really tight base, and then again, watch the front side elbow. Watch him bite the burger. Look at the rotation, and you see him just elevate, take a little, speed off the ball there. Look at the rotation. I mean, it drops in there. This is what he's been working on. I mean, this is awesome to see from a player. Watching a guy develop right before our eyes. We don't know where his ceiling is, but I love seeing players develop. It's something as a former coach and a player, when you're able to see, the fruits of your labor. You're able to see that from a kid like this, who you just want to root for. It's an awesome feeling to see, and you see him drop it in there to Diggs, and just a hell of a throw from the quarterback. All right, Nate, 1st and 20. And as you can see, the Bills are in a 2x2 set. Dawson Knox to the bottom of the screen. He, of course, motions in, and he has May on him, so they're thinking it's, again, probably man coverage. There's the alert call. They got man coverage, and what they're going to do from under center is run another play action pass, pull that guard, but they're going to sneak Dawson Knox up the sideline. And again, they were attacking May, even though he was their best player that day. They attacked him, and just a great touch throw, great 50-50 ball to his tight end, and catch by the young tight end. It was nice to see from Knox here. What are your thoughts on this play and Josh Allen's mechanics again?
Yeah, a lot of trust in Dawson Knox, and this is something I love to see too, because one of the things that Dawson Knox struggled with last year was, dropping the football. And this isn't the kind of play where, you trusting Dawson Knox in this play is a given. It's week 1, it's a new season. But again, I think that Josh Allen's in a position to make this throw accurately. He gives this guy an opportunity to make a play here. And again, we're talking about Marcus May, who at times today has stood out on film multiple occasions. Yeah. That's not, you got to be able to trust your guy to make a play in that situation against the Jets' best defender. I really love, and the shoulders, again, he's in a position to make a throw. And yes, that is a Jets defender launching into the head of Josh Allen. I think what I love most about the play, though, is he just didn't hesitate at all. He trusted Dawson Knox in the play, delivered an accurate ball, but maybe most importantly, he put it up there. Like if Marcus May makes a play, he could potentially go after this ball and get it himself. So he gets rid of the ball with enough timing to get rid of it without taking a hit and it causing any change to the flight of the ball or to the pattern of the ball. But for me, again, like the trust in this play is what will resound and something I'll think about, as we continue watching more as the season goes along. Like, are these the type of plays that become more norm? This is a play that Peyton Manning does, right? Like these are the types of plays, these back shoulders. It's not a true back shoulder. It's more of a 50-50. I trust my guy to go get it.
Yeah, and again, we talked about, biting the burger, front elbow, money on point again this time. And then the toughness. I mean, that's something that you have to mention when you talk about Josh Allen. And as we know, not all quarterbacks are leaders. Not all quarterbacks are vocal players. Not all quarterbacks have toughness. Some guys are really soft. Josh Allen is a tough player. He's a tough football player. He's not just a quarterback, and that's the type of quarterback that needs to lead the Buffalo Bills from here on out. All right, Nate, that was our first film room session on Josh Allen this year. It was great to, get back in the film room, watch some film. Hopefully next week and weeks down the line, we can actually use all 22 footage. But this was a great way to get a look at Josh Allen's mechanics, his improvement, and just show off some of his toughness, because he was, as you said, he was at 91% of the Bills' offense against the Jets. And, the Bills came out firing on Sunday, just like they did against the Jets in week 1 of last year. So I want to get your thoughts on, obviously maintaining that level of play, and, if the Bills can somehow get this run game going, which I think they'll be able to do. The Jets defense, I think according to Football Outsiders last year, they were ranked 2nd in DVOA on defense and run defense. So they're a stout defense. The Bills knew that. They knew they were going to have trouble, and that's why they had those play calls for Josh Allen and those, zone reads and read type plays. So let's talk about, getting that run game going. Zach Moss, Devin Singletary. Yeah. And, one thing we didn't touch upon, The screen game, bro.
Oh my God, how did we go?
We could do a whole show on the screen game.
God.
We could do a whole show on that. We maybe one of these days, or maybe during the bye week, that'll be like a topic, because that was
we didn't
wonderful.
Even mention it one time.
I know.
We saw a tight end screen, dude.
I know. So talk about the run game and how we can incorporate those guys, a more traditional run game, out of those pistol and run and on gun looks, stuff like that.
Shame on us. Shame on us for not going over the screens. But yeah, no, I think adding in the element of a consistent run game, which we know Sean McDermott wants in his teams, right? Like, he wants this element of a run first, the ability to run the ball when the other team knows you're going to run it. And at times, I thought on Sunday, the Bills didn't do a good job of winning at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage with the offensive line. Specifically on the right side, I thought at times they really struggled to run to the right. And that's something that's got to get better I also don't think you're going to be facing as good of interior defensive lines across the league, and ones that are so sound with their technique. I mean, Greg Williams is a good defensive coordinator. That defense is coached up well. That defense could be, with another defensive coordinator, could be much, much worse. They don't have a ton of talent. They've got a couple of guys that can make plays for them. Otherwise, and they lost Blake Cashman early in the game as well. Their linebacker, their starting linebacker. So, who, by the way, was filling in. So they had a lot of issues defensively. I thought the Bills did a good job exploiting it. The one area that we'll probably continue to go back to is they need to be better running the football. And if they can run the football with more regularity, but I think with more success, even though there isn't a direct correlation between play action success and running game success, I think one will feed the other. I think eventually, especially if you're making the way that Brian Daboll has made the play action look very similar to run keys, that's going to be a huge advantage for them, because if they can continue operating out of shotgun, which if they just decided to be a team that runs exclusively out of shotgun, just like Arizona, some of these, I think that's where the NFL is going. It gives the quarterback more opportunities, and especially a tall quarterback like Josh Allen, who can throw flat-footed and still throw the ball accurately and with velocity. Give him the most time and opportunity to see the field as it happens. Don't turn Josh Allen's back to the field on play action. Keep him facing forward and using his leverage with his mechanics. I think ultimately when the run game comes around, I think we're going to continue seeing strides in the passing game. I think there is going to be a correlation with both of those things. And for me, Erik, the last thing I'll kind of leave on is, it was a great start, right? This offense, from a passing perspective, looked like a very competent top 15 unit, top 10 unit. Those are things that we want to see. If this team's a championship caliber offense, it's going to start and finish with Josh Allen's ability to beat teams with his arm.
Yeah, no doubt. The run game, if they hypothetically run, a lot of their base run concepts out of gun, out of pistol, I think they'll be fine. I think it's going to take some time. It's going to adjust and whatnot, especially because of the, again, lack of hitting and contact and preseason, all that jazz because of COVID. I do think that they can do it, and it'll also maximize Josh Allen, because throwing him under center, running that outside zone, and having him boot out on those QB keepers and carrying out those, yes, that'll hold eyes a little bit, but keeping him in a shotgun or a pistol look, you can get a lot of the same run concepts off. But again, you mentioned keeping his eyes when they do pass run play action, keeping his eyes up and seeing the field better. But he also is the threat. He's not rolling out to one side and only being a rush threat to one side of the field. He can go either direction. We see it with Lamar, Kyler Murray. So if they want to do that more, which I'm all for, and I agree with you, I think that is kind of the future for some teams. I think that is definitely doable. I think it's going to take some time, but the pistol is a way to kind of be the hybrid, to be part under center, part shotgun, because again, you're getting a lot of the same looks for the running back. As a former running back, you're basically still running from the dot, so the angles are the same, your vision and approaching the line is the same, so your reads are similar. It feels the same, but they got to work on the timing, because you saw even some of those outside zone runs from pistol, they were kind of slow developing and almost looked like the running backs were almost too close to Josh Allen. Josh Allen was standing typically right around 5 yards, and it almost looked like the running backs were like at 7, which typically when we used to run it, it'd be a little deeper. But little things like that, again, that's all work in progress. They obviously have the horses and Zach Moss and Devin Singletary to execute any run game they want, because those guys ran, basically any type of concept in college. They ran from gun, they ran from under center, so they have the tools in the tool shed and they have the vision and obviously the ability to make people miss from anywhere on the field. So I'm not worried about that. Again, I think it's just going to take time, chalk that up to a really good run defense. But overall,
they didn't even hit, too. They didn't even hit on any of those read options. Like, Josh Allen was the running game. I think they will start hitting on those read options.
No doubt. No doubt about it. And this week could be it. This is the, Cam Newton, he rushed for like 75 yards on 15 carries, I believe. And it was power read concepts. It was zone read concepts. All stuff that the Bills, it's not the same exact concepts, but it's the same philosophy. Unblocked defender, getting that extra blocker front side, making a defender wrong pretty much every single time, making them commit to the running back or the quarterback, and making them pay. So the Bills weren't able to do that against the Jets. Those guys feathered really well. Those unblocked defenders, those read defenders feathered really well. We'll see if the Miami Dolphins
have the discipline.
Have the discipline to do that. Last week, Van Noy and Shaq Lawson were lost when it came to those read concepts, and they don't have the athleticism, maybe Van Noy a little more than Lawson, to make up for it when a running back or a quarterback gets outside the tackle box there. So, one thing that we're going to talk about in the matchup show later in the week, be on the lookout for that, is obviously that quarterback run game, the threat of that. Even if they don't run it and call it 8 times, that is something that you have to show in the game early, just to see, hey, how are they going to defend it? Are they able to defend it? You have to make them defend it because they obviously couldn't stop it last week. So you got to show it. You got to at least try it a couple of times. And then if they don't have it down, if they don't have that mesh or that read down like last week, then abort it, it or just save it for those critical situations like, 3rd and short, stuff like that. So with that said, man, what you got going on this week and where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, at Nate and Erik Sports on Twitter. A lot of stuff happening this week, and I added a weekly post-game column that I'll be doing at WGR550.com
Awesome.
on top of my normal on-air stuff. So, yeah, lots coming at you. I got Alabama Sports Talk Saturday. On Saturday, I'll likely have somebody to talk about the Dolphins and kind of start to break down that matchup. And then Sunday comes around, and all of a sudden week 2's in the books, and it feels like, man, we're almost done with the first quarter of the season already. So time's going to fly. I'm looking forward to this matchup, and I'm looking forward to doing this at this same time next week, hopefully at 2-0.
All right, brother. So I'm Eric Turner. That's Nate Geary. Get to cover1.net. Get all of your Bills content. Get all of your NFL draft content from us. We appreciate all the support. Thanks for tuning into this Cover One film room of Josh Allen.